But what was that last day like on the air for you after decades of morning television?
Very emotional, Ryan. As you know, you were there. You were part of it.
I remember when this all came down. Remember I was visiting my mom in Florida at the time, and you're like, hey, they just redistricted everything, and I'm leaving tomorrow. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. And everybody was in shock.
I mean, you kept me posted, and I knew behind the scenes this was something you were ready to go out and shoot your shot in a new way, right?
Exactly. You know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
3, 2, 1.
Get ready.
Hey everybody, what is going on? I am super stoked, more jacked up than usual because this is the inaugural launch of the Ryan Leckey Show. Oh yeah, my new podcast, hoping to bring you some great, cool content with amazing folks, movers and shakers in and around our area, northeastern central Pennsylvania and beyond. And of course, who better to have as my very first guest, one of my longtime BFFs,
That's
Tom
right.
Williams in the house.
You got it, buddy. I am very honored to be in the first Ryan Leckey podcast.
Thanks for chilling. Are you comfortable?
You know, I feel great here. This is a beautiful space you got here. Congratulations on your new gig and what you're doing.
Yeah. How about this?
I'm very proud of this guy. I really am.
And it means a lot. 17 years you and I worked together. We remain very close friends, and I was so excited to have you on the podcast because we have a lot to unpack. But first, as we always said in television, don't bury the lead.
The worst thing you could do, Ryan.
Yeah, don't bury the lead. So, of course, a lot of people are wondering, what is Tom doing? He has a new job, a new gig. What is it?
Drum roll, please. Well, I'm going back into television. I'm going to be the morning anchor at WBRE TV, Channel 28, Eyewitness News, and looking forward to it. You know, because it's who I am, Ryan. It's what I do. You know, it's I left television. What was it? Almost a year to the day.
Yeah.
And I'm going back.
And look, we have a lot to unpack because we got to talk about how you got to that realization where you said, I want to get back into television. And not only you getting back in the TV, people will be like, oh, he's working for the competitor now all of a sudden. So we're going to dive into that.
Okay. Well, yes. A lot to unpack. You're
so
right.
let's back up a second, though.
Yeah.
For you, I mean, you are like a broadcast legend in northeastern and central Pennsylvania.
Please.
One of my longtime mentors, though, of course, when I started here and moved to NEPA in 2005. Let's just dive in from the start. How long have you worked in broadcast? Because I want to unpack some of that backstory, when you left to run for a political office, everything.
So I started around here in radio back in 1988. Cub reporter at WYOU Radio. So I was the guy that would go around and cover the court cases, accidents, stuff like that. I did that for I think a year and a half, and I got my first TV job in Binghamton, New York. The station in Binghamton, WBNG.
I've heard people around here call it Bimington.
Bimington, and people in Scranton will say that. Great station, though, and I was their Elmira bureau guy. So kind of like the stations around here have a Williamsport bureau guy. Yeah. I was the Elmira guy. I worked in Elmira for about a year, then they moved me to Binghamton, and I anchored and reported there. Worked in Binghamton for like 2 years, and then I went to WNEP.
And that was what year?
1992. I worked so I was at WNEP from 1992 until March of last year.
Of 2022.
Of 2022, correct.
Right. All right. So let's talk about, obviously, a lot of people know you in this market, right, for your tenure on WNEP's morning show.
Right.
And then at what point, because I still think people don't know how you got to that realization, let's dive into more of the personal side. When you said, after doing morning TV for X amount of years, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go run for political office. But it was a lot more than just, I think I want a new career chapter. You had a lot to going on behind the scenes.
There was a lot. And people should know that you and I have kind of gone through this journey together.
Literally.
We've actually talked about this, and we went through it together. But it started with the pandemic for me. So the pandemic, working alone, if you remember, Joe was at his house, Mindy was at her house. I never saw you because you were all out on the road. I was at the station.
Or I was in my living room.
In your living room, right. So I was basically sitting on that set by myself and not feeling sorry for myself, believe me, but it was like you started asking questions like, what else can you do with your life? I've done this for a long time. What else can I do? And then after that, a year into the pandemic, I got cancer. I got a rare form of cancer. And a rare sarcoma, not caused by the sun or anything. So then you're like, what the heck is that? You start going, well, how much time do you have on this earth? Well, thankfully, thank God, that was taken care of, and I'm good with that. I'm more than a year out, cancer free. Get checked out there. Make sure you get to your dermatologist and get checked.
So you had a form of skin cancer.
I had a form of skin cancer, right.
And that was for you, that was like a wake-up call because you're like, holy heck, I've been doing the same thing for a number of years.
Yeah, and it kind of got stale for me. You know what I mean? It's you're doing the same thing. You kind of feel like you're spinning your wheels. I loved the people I work with. You, Ryan, and Joe and Mindy. Loved every single person there. Andy Palumbo. I got all my friends are still there. But you start going, what else can I do? So that's when I decided, hey, political office. People approach me and they said, would you be interested in this? And I've always had that. I've always had that interest in politics. I kind of love election day on the news when we do that kind of stuff and reporting on the candidates. And you start asking yourself, like, what can you do to make a difference? And that was another way to still help being part of the community and helping your community in a different way. So I decided to run for state representative in Luzerne County. And it didn't go as planned.
Yeah, well, talk about that, because I think hearing you say that now, it sounds, oh, I just went and ran and didn't go as planned. It sounds easy, but there was so much legwork.
Yeah.
But I think the story, the behind-the-scenes story, is you making that decision leading up to saying, hey, I'm going to leave broadcast television after, decades. And the thing is, people need to know, when you made the decision to go run for office, it's not like you're like, hey, everybody, in 60 days, I'm going to leave the station and go try this. Behind the scenes, you started laying some of the groundwork, but you literally just had to come in and make a decision one day to say, I'm done. And because you had to announce you were running for office, they're kind of, the way corporate works, right? And the way television works, and I get it with politics, they're like, see ya.
Exactly. I didn't even actually live in my district until... If you remember last year in Pennsylvania, we redistricted. So they redrew all the Senate and House districts. I didn't live in the district that I ran in. It didn't happen until, I think it came down very late. If you remember, it got caught up in the courts. It came down, say, like March 15th. Right. I literally went into WNEP the next day when I found out that I was in this district that I could run. I said, I love this place. I'm going to tell you, though, I wish I could give you more notice, but I'm leaving tomorrow. So I literally left the job that I loved in probably 24 hours, and they were shocked.
Now, when people hear this, there's a reason why you had to leave so quick.
You can't, as a journalist, obviously I can't be, I have to be unbiased. I cannot report the news and be a political candidate. So I had to leave, had to quit that job and run. And, to their credit, WNEP they bent over backwards for me. They were like, okay, no problem. If that's what you want to do, you go forth, go do it. And that's what I did. And I was in a race for 2 months, and it was, we just couldn't catch up. Very good candidate that I ran against. Congratulations, Alec Brinkavich. He's a young man from Plymouth who he and I were in the vying for the Republican nomination. And he won the race in May, and to his credit, and he ended up beating the Democratic opponent in November, and he was sworn in back in January. But it was a tough race. We both spent a lot of money, we both raised a lot of money, and we both did a lot of legwork. I worked very hard on that race. And knocked a lot of doors, thousands of doors, going door to door, doing a lot of advertising. It just didn't work out in the end.
And I know when you said, though, you had to tell them, hey, I'm leaving, I'm going to go run for office. Mm-hmm. But what was that last day like on the air for you after decades of morning television?
Very emotional, Ryan. As you know, you were there. You were part of it.
I remember when this all came down. Remember, I was visiting my mom in Florida at the time, and you're like, hey, they just redistricted everything, and I'm leaving tomorrow. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. And everybody was in shock.
I mean, you kept me posted, and I knew behind the scenes this was something you were ready to go out and shoot your shot in a new way, right?
Exactly. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
But I guess for you, what was the push to say, like, it is time to go out and do something new? Because you're sort of innovating yourself again, and we're going to come back to that big announcement with WBRE and your new morning show gig. But for you, what was like that final push? Was it the pandemic? Was it cancer?
It was all those things, Ryan, and also trying to do something new. I had done the morning anchor job and news in general for such a long time that I was looking for something different. And that was the opportunity that perhaps I needed at that time. And I don't regret anything. People say this might sound like sour grapes, you lost. Well, as I just said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I took my shot. As a matter of fact, Ryan sent me this meme. He's my spirit animal just last week. It was a graffiti on a wall that said, I wish I had tried. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's, you got to try. And that's my message to people. There's so many other things you can do out there. Just give it a shot. Give it a shot. And I don't regret that
And I think when you did that, that was sort of I had a little fire lit, but when you did that, that poured the gasoline on it. Just because I said I wanted to try something different, right? Like for me, I was going to be my 40s and I didn't want to look back and be like, man, why didn't I go try this? And I'm sure you experienced the same when a number of people said, maybe you should run for office and try that. So what was that conversation like? What was it like among your family then when you lost? Because then you had to think, oh God, what's next?
Right.
Because you're not old enough to retire.
Right. Before that, because I was quitting a good job. I told my wife, Colleen, my biggest supporter, I said, look, there's a chance. This is a competitive race. There's a chance we're going to lose this thing, but something good will happen.
Yeah,
and that's exactly right. That's what happened. So after the race, I remember it was Ryan's going away party. We went to a Mexican restaurant in Scranton. It was the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, and everybody there from the morning team was there, and they're like, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" It was 2 weeks after I lost the election. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. The world's my oyster. I think I could do a lot of different things. I think, I still have a brand out there. I think I could help someone. And no sooner did we sit down and we're having our chips and salsa, but my phone rings.
I was on my sixth basket.
He was, and his sixth margarita too. But that's all right.
Bring it back. Bring it back. No, go ahead.
But honest to God, I'm sitting there and my phone rings and it pops up Senator Lisa Baker. And who's been a big supporter through that election and a good friend. And I pick up and she says, Tom, I got a job for you. Would you consider coming here and being, my outreach and communications person? So, I was very lucky that 2 weeks after the election, I pretty much, was assured of a job. And, and that's what I've been doing for the last 8 months, working with Senator Baker, who I have the utmost respect for.
She's super cool.
Great
I've
person.
Worked with her in different capacities, but yeah.
And cares about the region and told me when I was running that she said, this is not politics. It's public service. And that's the way Lisa sees it. She sees her job as public service. And I got to tell you, so she is out in the district. Her district covers 5 counties, from Luzerne County all the way to the Poconos, from the Susquehanna River all the way to the Delaware River through Pike County. She is out in the district every day, working hard. And that's after, so many years in politics. She is still killing it out there.
And what was your day-to-day with her? Because I think the biggest thing is, unlike television news and the morning show where you were getting up at 2 a.m.,
right,
like the rest of us, right? You left, you started having this shift in life, right? Tell me about how did the sleep schedule change and impact your life, and then this new role, and what were you doing day to day when people are like, well, what did he actually do at her office?
Yeah, well, definitely the sleep schedule changes when you're getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Where people don't realize when Ryan and I go to bed at 4, I'd start going to bed at like 4 o'clock, putting my clothes out, going to bed, reading my iPad, and I'd try to fall asleep by 5. Well, now, I could actually stay up and have a life with my wife and watch a TV movie till 10 o'clock at night and still sleep in till 6 a.m. I would. But I still, to this day, I mean, I haven't worked in morning television in a year. I still get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't get up and go around, but I wake up.
You glance at the clock.
I naturally wake up and I roll over then. But yeah, so that was a big change in my life to finally working 9 to 5, because I hadn't done that in such a long time. But my daily duties with Senator Baker is I handle communications requests, people asking, for comments from Senator Baker. And also in outreach, I would go to the places that Senator Baker could not go to. Yeah. So if there was something going on, if there's a PennDOT meeting, people complaining about potholes up in Thompson, Susquehanna County, I would go there. Or, there's a bridge project in Pike County that PennDOT was hosting and Lisa was in Harrisburg, I would go on her behalf and try to help the constituents in that way. So that was, a good lesson for me to learn there too. It was just the politics of the office and how to, and we all know what goes on in Harrisburg. People are voting on, bills, this and that in Harrisburg, but the real work is done in the district, in the office, in going out into the community and helping people with their bridges, potholes, what have you. That's where the work is done, and that's what gets people elected.
And I have to ask this question, right? So before you went and worked for Senator Baker's office, after you lost the election, you were thinking, what's next?
Right.
Did you go back to your old employer, WNEP, and say, because some people were asking me like, hey, why doesn't he just go and get his job back?
Right. It doesn't work that way. That ship had sailed. I had retired from WNEP. I gave that heartfelt speech. I mean, if they reached out to me, I definitely would have, probably gone back. But, there was a push inside the building for some people there. I think it was Joe. Yeah,
Joe wanted to have you come back.
Joe wanted me to come back too. But yeah, no, I think that ship had sailed because I had retired from WNEP and had moved on, and I think mutually that was best for both of us.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that because for one, you were announcing you're going to run for office, right? And then you said your farewell. You sort of retired from there, so. I just had to ask that because some people are like, well, why didn't you just go back? And it didn't work that way because they did move people. We both love John Myers, so they moved him into that spot.
They asked me, like, when I was leaving, like, who should replace you? And I'm like, there's one guy that should replace me. It's John Meyer, and he slid right in the seat, and he's perfect there. So, and, we're still all very close, all of us, and keep in contact with all of them, too. Yeah,
the TV fam. People often wonder, they thought I left because I didn't get your anchor gig. Yeah. I had zero interest in that job.
No, you don't. Ryan's like a caged animal. Like he was like the tiger at the cage of the zoo, like banging his head off the bars. That's what he needed to break out as well.
I couldn't sit still, and it was time for a change.
Yeah.
So let's go now to present day, right? Like for you, it was a career, at WNEP for decades in morning television, right? You decide it's time to, after the pandemic, it's the wake-up call for a lot of people. I experienced that. The pandemic, cancer you dealt with, right?
Yeah.
You make it through both on the other side, and you're working in, the communications role with Senator Baker. Mm-hmm. When did all of a sudden another TV potential rear its head? Because let's get to that point.
Well, I've lived a blessed life, Ryan, and there's been a lot of serendipity in my life.
And we should tell people you have 3 kids.
Yeah, I have 3 kids, fantastic kids. My wife and I were married 30 years back in June.
Colleen's a saint for putting up with you.
She is, but my kids, I'll brag on them. Sarah is the transfer coordinator at Temple University. Fox School Business. So if you transfer from a different school to Temple, you go through Sarah.
Yeah.
Tom's a computer engineer from Penn State. And Ryan, my youngest, is a junior at Penn State. He's a finance major. However, he works for Penn State football. So he works in recruiting for Penn State football as an intern. He's done that for the last 2 years. And he has an interest to be like a football coach. And he's a smart kid. And that's where they're hiring a lot of these football coaches now from like a business background. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's out there coaching football. But I'm proud of all my kids.
And you're repping
I'm repping my Penn State stuff.
The Penn State gear
today. You got it. But Ryan, so the serendipity part. So I had to go interview with Senator Baker and her chief of staff, and we were meeting at a restaurant in outside of Wilkes-Barre, and I got there a little early. I'm sitting in my rig, waiting for Senator Baker, and my phone rings again, and it's Andy Wyatt, the general manager of WBRE. So this is once again 2-3 weeks after I had lost the election and didn't have a job at that point, and what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm not doing anything, Andy. I'm currently unemployed. But so we kind of got this friendship. Andy and I talked, and he had always come back at me in September of last year. What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, what about this place? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I still have a no compete. That's one thing in television. If you work at one station, you can't compete against the other for a certain amount of months. So I had this no compete contract, so I couldn't go to work at another station in this market. But Andy he would say, come over, I'm over at the Westmoreland Club. Why don't you come over here and have a beer with me? And I'd go see him, and we'd talk, and there was this mutual interest, but we never could put it together. So finally, it happened. We've been working on this probably for like the last 2 months.
Now, was it hard to come to the decision to go back to morning TV? Because now I think you're a little closer to the station where you're working, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to get up at 2 a.m. But was it hard for you to say, like, man, I got to get back up at 3 and go to bed at 6? Was that tough?
I got to say, Ryan, you know what? I never had a problem with that. I could get up early, and for my last job doing it, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I got up. This one, I'm going to probably sleep to about 2:30, a little bit closer. I'm not going in a little earlier, but yeah, I've never had a problem with that shift, so that's okay with me. How long I'll be doing that, who knows? But it interests me. It's a good place to work. I've met Kelly and Logan, great people, and I'm looking forward to getting back on the anchor desk because I've realized over the last year that it's who I am.
Yeah.
It's what I'm most comfortable doing. And I didn't think I would miss it, but I've missed it a lot. I've really, really missed it a lot.
And I say this not just because we're friends. It's so natural for you. And you're also like one of the funniest people I've ever
thanks.
met. I always tell people that. I'm like, you only get a snippet of Tom on television, right? But the guy in person is one of the funniest, smartest, wittiest people I've ever met.
No,
be honest, though, walking in there because You
Yeah.
know, when you work at one station for 20, 25 years, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're at the competitor.
Right. It's strange.
What was that like?
It's strange. And I walked in for the first time a couple weeks ago. They walked me through the newsroom, and you know, I'm sure tongues were wagging on like, what the heck's going on with this?
Yeah.
And there
What's he
were,
doing
because I
here?
got reports from my, you know, my other friends
Yeah.
at WNEP. Hey, what are you doing down that
We
way?
always joke, as big as television is, the industry, it is so small.
It
the
really
minute
is.
somebody walks through a station, it could be in San Antonio, Texas, right?
People know.
Do you know this guy? Yeah.
Especially in the cell phone world where pictures and stuff. But then last week I was in there just to meet the morning team. And yeah, it's, you know, different set, different colors. And we actually had a lot of fun talking to them. And I'm looking forward to working with my friends at WBRE. But it was strange going in there for the first time, I got to say, because I was sitting at one set for 30 years, you know. So now I got to go somewhere else. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to enjoy it, I'm sure.
Anything that's on your radar when you go there that you want to tackle or do, or you're like, let's just... I think because a lot of people probably thinking, here comes this guy who's worked in TV for 25 years, et cetera. He's going to come in here and change everything.
Yeah, I don't think that's up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I would change. No, that's up to management, of course. But I think we just want to go there. There'll be this familiarity. Hopefully, we can get accustomed to each other and get a rapport like we kind of did at WNEP. And the good thing is you can tell people that it's okay. You can switch. You know, there are a lot of people out there that love WNEP. I get that. I work there. You know, I was one of them. But you know, you could flip around. You know, give us a shot. Take a look, and you know, hopefully we're doing something different, perhaps, and it'll catch your fancy, and you know, you'll want to tune in more.
And what were those conversations like when you told, I mean, we still talk to a lot of people we used to work with. When you told some of them what you were up to, how did that go?
Yeah, well, so I basically I called Mindy and I called Joe and a couple other people at the station just to let them know what I was doing, and they're super supportive. You know, they're more than anything, they're friends, just like you. You know what I mean? We were family there.
Yeah.
And
Dysfunctional,
you know,
but
yeah, dysfunctional
in a great
family,
way. In a great
absolutely,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they're pulling for me, so and I appreciate that. They got my back and I got theirs.
So where do you see, I guess the thing is you're excited. You have this new chapter. You're starting on the show
Yes,
which is, gosh,
the 16th.
the 16th is your big debut.
Yep.
Nervous? Excited?
Yeah, you know, I think there's a lot of both, and maybe a little bit of I'm frightened too. You know, it's something new. I'm out of my comfort zone, because that wasn't another thing, Ryan. We've talked about this before. We wanted to get out of our comfort zone, and I was very comfortable about what I was doing. And what's a good way to get away from that? Quit your job, you know, and try to do something without the protective net of the circus, you know, and you could definitely fall, and you know what, you could come back and do it. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's going to be weird because, you know, I've anchored at a different place for so many years and with new people at a new place, and it's going to be fun though. It's going to be fun. It's got my juices flowing again.
I think the biggest thing is that you're doing what you love.
It is. It's.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky, as I said. I've lived a charmed life, and for this to come around, another opportunity in my hometown.
I was just going to say that you're doing what you love, but also you don't have to come in here and learn the language,
Right.
the lingo, and how to pronounce makanakwa.
Right. So it's difficult, and you know, it's difficult to start a new chapter in your life and go somewhere else to work. I'm going to a place that I'm familiar with people. You know, that I've known Andy Mahalchik for nearly 40 years. Mark Hiller, same thing.
Yeah.
I've known all these guys.
Great people,
some of
too. Great people.
Good people. And some of the photographers there I've known for, 20 years. So it's a place that I'm very familiar with. And the faces you're all familiar with, too. So, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up? I mean, the big announcement, Tom Williams is going to anchor at WBRE on their morning show.
Yes, getting up early again, looking forward to it. Juices are flowing. Check us out. You know what I mean? They said something different. Maybe you'll catch on. You're like, hey, I like this a little better. I want to see it. But I also shout out to Ryan. I'm very honored to be on your first podcast.
The inaugural podcast.
I'm so proud of this guy because you know what? We said before at the top of this podcast that we were kind of on the same journey. Like
17 years we worked together,
we-
and we had so many conversations.
Yeah.
I remember in edit booths, right? I would pull you in, and I'm like, here's where my head is. I think I'm thinking about doing this. And it was so scary. And I don't know if I would have made the leap, right, to launch my own media company right?
Right.
If you didn't do it.
Right. We kind of both like booted each other in the butt.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's worked out great for you, and I think it's worked out perfect for both of us because we're both excited about what we're doing, and we're still part of the community, and we're very blessed that we can still be part of that.
To be so connected to this community that's given us so much.
Yes,
It's amazing.
Yes. Thank you. I mean, I couldn't say it enough when I left WNEP. Thank you for 30 great years there, and now it's a new chapter at WBRE.
Now you have 30 other years.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
work
I
at
mean,
WBRE.
we'll see. We'll see where it goes, but it's going to be great. It's going to be a great new chapter.
I love it. Well, listen, thanks so much.
Fist bump.
Yeah. Tom Williams, my first guest on the Ryan Leckey Show. We have many others rolling out. Don't forget, if you like this video, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, get the latest updates. We'll be posting other clips on social media. Our goal is to drop these like every 2 weeks. We have some other surprise guests coming your way, but who better to have on the first show than my BFF first?
My bestie Ryan. Love you, brother.
Same. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, and good
You got
luck.
it.
And by the way, I still hope you text me at like 4:30 or 5 a.m.
But you'll text me back like 10 hours
So when I'm
later.
going to the gym, you're
Yep.
like, hey.
Yep.
All right. Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Ryan.
Tom Williams, everybody, and thanks for being a part of the inaugural Ryan Leckey Show.